acclimating kids to being locked up, to being arrested, to being part of mass incarceration. Where in the suburbs, perhaps that same offense will be handled much differently. So we're actually preparing young people to be incarcerated. Also in Philadelphia, there's a lack of opportunities, a lack of jobs, there's a lack of so many things that we need to move forward. So when you talk about the school to prison pipeline, you have to talk about what is not in place as much as what is in place. When I stand sometimes in front of my office at 3050 Germantown Avenue, and I watch the kids coming from Simon Rex, and they're coming in waves down the street, headed toward Broadway, which is a transportation hub. They're going home to homes all over the city. And I'm thinking in my head, these kids should be going into one of the hundreds of stores that line Germantown Avenue for their after-school jobs. But they can't do that because we don't own those stores. Other races own those stores.
Right.
So no one's hiring them. No one's counseling them. No one's teaching them to be better people. So when we talk about the school to prison pipeline, we must talk about our responsibility as adults to the kids in our community.
Right.
And we don't talk about that enough.
Right.
My colleague here is suggesting that I probably have one person in the audience respond to that question. Does anyone have anything to add with regards to the school to prison pipeline as it affects the juvenile justice system?
I just learned today that if you fail in the 9th or 10th grade, you have to pay $195 if you want to get an online makeup course, and $295 if you want to go to a charter school to take an in-person course. If you're an 11th or 12th grade, the school district pays for that. I don't know anything about transportation, but I was told that there is no transportation assistance in the summer.
Thank you. And something too that we need to take note of with regards to school to prison pipeline. There are many kids who leave home. I think it was Wang who spoke about it sometimes. Okay, look at the conditions under which Wang lived. You know, I mean, he said he went to school, but when he actually came home, there were 3 women, 4 kids living in the same house. Sometimes he went to school hungry. There are a lot of kids who are going to school who, because of poverty, which is a big contributor to the criminal justice system. There are lots of kids going to school that are not ready. We talk about nurturing. We feed our kids, we give them the basics because we know that they need to have milk and everything else to prepare them for school. There are a lot of kids going into school every morning and did not have that first meal. Hence, their brains are not ready to absorb whatever a teacher is teaching them. And then you have teachers who are not empathetic to these kids. So here you are, sitting in my class. I have a syllabus that I'm supposed to complete at a certain number of weeks. You don't want to participate, I fail you. Or you don't show up tomorrow, I don't care if you don't show up. And then these young men and young women end up on the streets. First guy that comes, you want a pair of sneaks, here's a bag. Before you know it, the cops have locked them up. And that pipeline continues to move. So this is something that we as community people have got to keep ourselves aware of. My next question, you have something to add?
Can I add something to that? When I look at it, I think that being a juvenile, our schools look like prisons. We have armed police officers there, right? We have draconian laws, policies that criminalize our children for behaviors that when we were growing up were, as Ruben said earlier, just being a child. When you look at it, right, first of all, armed police officers are not counselors, right? Their whole thing is law and order. So they criminalize them for being disrespectful. They criminalize them in many different ways. So I think that one of the ways that we can stop the school and prison pipeline is to take it back to an institution of learning. They reduce our schools to the bare minimum. No paper, teachers got to fund their own paper, their own writing utensils, no textbooks. We got so-called disciplinary schools where they do nothing but warehouse the children. This is all a part of that school and prison pipeline. So the first thing we need to do is we need to take the police out of our schools because they're not there to be educated, they're there for law and order purposes. We need to revisit all of these policies of zero tolerance because they criminalize our children. We got people that we've got to get jobs for being suspended for action, or for being arrested for actions that when we were growing up were just, in-house suspension or something, right? But now they're criminal situations. So we need to start taking our things back to education and not giving our children the perception that school is that rites of passage to the prison system.
Hello. I believe that some of the problems with our youth today, as far as committing crimes, getting incarcerated, is that a lot of people don't understand that the purpose of the juvenile justice system was created for reform and rehabilitation. And now these youth are being tried as adults and being placed in adult prisons with adults where, of course, we heard on the film that a lot of these children do not have the mental capacity to understand their environment that they're within. Now, when they go to prison and they're placed into an adult prison, they're not receiving the education that they should be receiving, or they're missing the education that they should be getting because they're being incarcerated during the punitive years that they should be receiving their education. So a lot of these bills that have been passed, and in each state has their own bill, it has affected our youth as to how things are happening on state to state, because every state has a different way of sanctioning our minors.
Thank you.
Sure. Let's take it as a given that we understand that these elements are there in terms of the school systems and all that. There's a guy named Jonathan Kozar. He wrote a book called Savage Inequalities. He talks about school systems that are at a disadvantage, particularly in the cities. And so let's take it as a given. We know these things exist. And what kind of presence are we creating in an environment that provides that opportunity or hope for young people? And because I think about my experience when I was out there, I didn't see the presence out there. For someone, because I think I would have been very easily influenced if someone would have simply said, here, come with me. And so we need to think about the fact that these things aren't there, and we know that there's a system that's set up that's for failure for particularly young African Americans. What kind of institutions are we creating, particularly the churches, the mosques, because they have, I think, a big influence in our community. Why isn't that presence more out there, more prevalent out there for young people to be able to be influenced by people in these institutions? And so I'm challenging us to start thinking about how are we putting ourselves out there to create alternatives for young people.
Yeah, and that's, to that point, so a lot of the reporting that these 15 news outlets have tried to undertake in the past few months is kind of looking for what works and trends, both kind of on the personal level, and you're talking about mentorship, which is something that Jondhi, I know, talks about as well, in addition to institutional reforms. And what you can see is that people who do get mentored when they are either inside a prison or when they immediately have the opportunity to come out do much better, have much lower recidivism and reincarceration rates. And it's, we need to have kind of both of those parallel tracks happening, and places where they have been able to have both kind of the personal mentorship and the institutional side, you have much better results.
So you're saying pre-release mentoring and post-release mentoring? How do you feel about that? Any comments? How do you feel about pre-release mentoring and post-release mentoring for juveniles?
I think that is helpful. I think that all around, I want to comment on what the brother said as well. I think that we make it too complicated. And because in the 50s and the 60s, we've seen this movement with Dr. Martin Luther King and a bunch of our change makers. And they disrupt the system. They made it their business. And not just them per se, because they're prominent, but the neighbors, the parents, the communities. No matter what color there was, they were making it uncomfortable for these bills to get passed. They were actually being involved in engaging these things. And I think that what happened to us is that we stopped caring enough to make it more impactful, where our children is not falling susceptible to these type of crimes. Poverty was the biggest elephant in the room when you've seen these stories. And when it comes to mentorship, and it has to be a case-by-case basis type of thing. And we don't make it, the law's not making it like that. And these children are suffering from things that are way more, and then we start to, I'm gonna just say this, I'm gonna make it really short, is that we start to say, well, they don't have the capacity. That's fine on the scientific level, but on the intellectual level, they are very intelligent. They want people to approach them and to deal with them in an intelligent, emotional manner. And I think that's where we forget, is because we start putting voices for their voices. And then the whole translation of who they are and their families and their mothers and their fathers and generations get lost. And that's not even respected anymore. And that's why, I'm going to end it on this note, I think that the care is gone. We're not caring. We want to put a blame on something, which is appropriate, but it's not appropriate to take a young person's life like that without considering who they're going to become when they get adults. So that's my opinion.
I'd like to kind of ride what she's saying, because we don't care enough. We don't care what goes on in court unless it's our kid in court. We don't care what goes on in the schools unless it's our child being suspended or in trouble. I've been in a lot of schools, and one of the main problems they have is parent participation. Parents do not come to parent-teacher conference. They don't come to the activities. They don't volunteer. And the schools where you have intense parent participation, you have a much better situation. That's the reality. People are always talking about it takes a village to raise children, but we aren't that village. And until we become that village, we're going to have these problems.
You have a comment in the back?
I would challenge you to say until we go back to being the village, because I think it's the village that helped us, and that's the struggle that we're seeing now, is going back to basics. We're talking about the school to prison pipeline, but the first institution is that which they're born into, and that's the family. And there was a period where there was the community. Parents should work different shifts so that there was coverage for children. We've moved to the space of wanting to get our children a lot of things versus realizing that it is our time that the children need more than anything. And if it's not my time, then it's your time. It's whoever can provide the time that the child needs. I work at the Juvenile Justice Center. And one of the things that I find that the students are missing 360. They've not been taught conflict resolution. They don't know that there is a way to talk something out. The young man that was just killed and shot 22 times on Udall Street was with us in January, and he was killed on Monday morning. I didn't know it while he was there, but that was my sister's best friend's grandson. I'll find out once he's born. They don't know how to talk to people. the first thing they think about in communication is talking behind something. They talk behind email, Facebook, Twitter, all of these different things. So when you say to them, what you're saying conflicts with your body language, they don't even understand what body language is. It's a lot of the back to basics that the young people are missing and that we're missing as the caregivers for not just our children, but the children of the village.
And a part of that is because we have 60% of our households are headed by single females. So you have a whole generation of young men, not only without fathers, but without strong father figures in their family circle. And that's essential. Because only strong black men can teach young black men how to be black men in America, which is a very, very difficult job. So one of the things that we need to look at very strongly is funding organizations that will take returning citizens, take those who have come back from prison, take juvenile lifers, and create resources for them to be in our neighborhoods where they're respected, where they're known, so that we can influence young men on a much deeper level.
Well, you know, I'm a kind of person that like to talk about solutions more so than identifying the problems, because we are good at identifying problems. We're not good at coming up with solutions. And what I mean by that is that I once worked in a daycare where I seen the kids come in 6 months, 3 months, and what I found was, even before it came out, that that our children was not prepared to be able to learn. This caused a lot of the frictions within the school itself. All right? And so recognizing that the daycares plays an important role. Now, that daycare only plays a partial role, because if the daycare is not being reinforced by the parent, then what the child learns at the daycare falls to the wayside. What I mean, today's time, we teach the child how to go to the pot, the way they pull ups. But when they go home, the mom put a pamper on them. Child never get the opportunity at home to be able to learn how to pull that pamper up and pull that pamper down when it's time to go to the bathroom. Those kind of things is what I'm talking about in terms of dealing with this situation here. Is if you catch it early and get the parents involved early in their child education, when they're in the 4th grade, when they're in the 5th grade, they are prepared to compete. This is the reason why we're having the type of pipeline, because why? The policymakers are well aware that if a child flunks to 3rd grade, he's going to jail.
Right.
So Wayne, are you saying that before potty training is at the root of the school to prison pipeline?
Now, what I'm saying is that, that if we begin as caregivers and as daycare providers, work to support each other, all right? This will be a way that child in that daycare, when he leaves that daycare, he knows his numbers. He knows his name. He knows his address, his colors. He knows how to spell a little bit, okay? That's how a child began to learn how to compete, because when they get to the kindergarten, they're not ready. So what I'm saying is this, basically is this, is that we have to look at this thing before they even began to become a problem, that we have to step in early on. And what is that? At the daycare level. Because why? At the daycare level, that child is dependent on 2 people, their parent and their teacher. So that's my whole question, is that we need to start looking at how to prevent our children from getting in there, and one of the ways is to do that is to start concentrating on getting them prepared to learn.
Hi everybody, and some of you I know up there. So, as it relates specifically to the juvenile lifers in the system, a big part of, I guess, a challenge that I see is that, so your juveniles there are the supports that are out here for the family members, the mothers, adults. Where are the emphasis on the supports to, at that point, empower them, to help them cope, to support their loved one behind the wall? And in many cases, because of any lack of support, there are other children in the family. So a lot of times you see family members, and I've been a part of this as well, they're grieving, they're crying, they're reaching out, but there's no support in terms of, here are some things as a parent now that you can do as it relates to your child being behind the wall. So let me finish this. I'm gonna go real quick and sort of just wrap their arms around all these families and these folks and give them whatever supports, behavioral health supports, legal supports, or whatever. So, schools, because you touched on that, Jondhi. We all know they're outdated. So I'm gonna go back to supports again. You have sciences, you have social studies, and history, and all these other things. If the school system would really start to look at science as relates to behaviors, and maybe there's strong curriculums as it relates to behaviors and emphasis on those types of sciences, I think as those children are in school and they become empowered around behaviors, then there's an opportunity for them to have a higher level of success. You also talked about the mothers heading 60% of the households, and I hear that a lot. They head these households, there's opportunity there. Empower mothers. The brothers are already going out of there at that point. You know, we have a lot of conversation around mothers heading homes. I'm 60. My mother headed a household of 9 people. 6 or 7 in the system. It did happen. Everyone touched college. So I'm going to go back to that again. For the mothers that are out here, one of the big issues is whether it's the prison system or the school system. I think there's so much conversation around them heading households, but there's no supports. And supports are out here. And so some way, folks like us that are in the system and social workers in any way possible, I think that where the opportunity becomes, give supports to folks who are available and folks who are not available. If you have the opportunity, try to make yourself available. There are a lot of groups out here that are really on the front line doing things. One of the biggest problems in Philadelphia, they have groups and money, but they have a system. I'm saying this. We have a system here of people that get opportunities who are not doing a very good job and have not done a very good job. And so until we get a real strong leader that understands that we need organizations like yours, my brother, because I know you personally, And those kind of people who are not going to be compromised, then that's going to be a challenge. Thank you. I'm sorry if I was long-winded.
Let's just say it plainly. You know, the money in Philadelphia doesn't go to black organizations that are on the front lines, that are in their neighborhood, that could use the resources to do the road.
You're exactly right.
Absolutely.
Exactly right.
The money goes to mainstream white organizations that are well organized, well structured, who have great websites, and it looks like they're doing wonderful work.
I just want to kind of bring back the conversation to the documentary, and we have a lot of comments. And it's regarding trauma and brain development. This was a movie that focused on the incarceration experiences of 3 juveniles. We have a juvenile lifer sitting on our panel. I just want to read, because I'm preparing for this panel, I came up on something that I just want to share with you. And then I'd like the panel to kick in and people in the audience. It says, I don't think it's too much of a stretch to say that most, if not all, of the adult men and women we meet in jail have had adverse and traumatic childhood experiences. More and more research is coming to light of the deep impact of that trauma on the mind and body and the spirit as well. And then this writer just went on to say, we now know that trauma compromises the brain area that communicates the physical, embodied feeling of being alive. And he also went on to say that they also help us understand why traumatized people so often keep repeating the same problems and have such trouble learning from experiences. We now know that their behaviors are not the result of moral feelings or signs of the lack of willpower or bad character. They are caused by actual changes in the brain. And ladies and gentlemen, in the work that we do, I think if we don't start recognizing, and this is why I went back, I touched a little bit about the children, and I know Mr. Jacobs touched on the children. If we do not start recognizing sometimes the experiences and the cause of those experiences that the children in our neighborhoods and in our homes and in our lives are experiencing, if we don't start recognizing that their brains are being affected, and hence it's preventing them from like the young lady said, or someone in the audience says, they don't know how to do conflict resolution. They don't know how to, there's something called fight or flight. So when there's a trigger that occurs, like the young man talked about Jared, he talked about his father, he's seen his father trying to commit suicide. The other young man talking about his father not liking him and like the other brother, and he wanting to do, to get accepted. These are trauma-informed experiences. And I think as professionals and community people, we got to start looking at these things, because one of the questions that I strongly see, when these young men go to court, or young women go to court, these juveniles, rather than ask them, why did you do this? You know what we should be asking them? What happened to you as a child? What did you see? What did you experience? And I think from there, if we have the right professionals in place, a lot of these juvenile lifers that have gone to jail, and these that we're seeing now, and those that are sitting in picket, all these juvenile detention centers waiting to go to jail, there will be other services in place that we won't have juvenile lifers anymore. So I'm just throwing this out. I mean, how does the panel feel about it? Again, like I'm saying, I'll start off with the juvenile lifer expert, and then how does the people in the room feel about it? We need to start thinking about trauma-informed experiences of the young men and women in our neighborhood, in our communities. Everything is blood and gore, and you have little boys and little girls. They're actually filming murders. They're actually filming people laying on the street. They have become so desensitized. That's trauma. And that's what we need to start thinking about, ladies and gentlemen.
I agree with you. I think about my experience, and I grew up in a home with a single mother raising 11 children. And oftentimes when I came home, my mother wasn't there because she was working. And so I had opportunity just to go free and run around. And so I think at that point in time, I began to experiment, or my curiosity became probably, stretched a little bit in terms of the environment, what was going on in the environment, and seeing, running into, and I think this is where the trauma piece comes in, seeing single parent homes where they were getting things that I couldn't get. And that's a little trauma, because I realized I wanted those things. And so that forced me out there a little bit more. I got to go get that because I want to be like such and such. And so when I realized that my mom couldn't afford those things because she got to take care of all these children. And so I remember just going through those particular experiences, and that forced me out there a little bit more, saying, okay, I'm going out here, and I see guys out there that's starting to smoke weed and doing other negative things out there, and so I began to drift in that pattern. But when I think about it, was just those. I remember we had someone come up, grade 4. It was a woman that teaches trauma, and she was just saying that trauma is not necessarily just physical, element that take place. It's little small things. And so I started to think about that, and I said, you know what? I remember how, as I was growing up, and I couldn't get particular things, and my sneakers was running down, and I didn't have the latest sneakers, but my friend had them because his mom could afford it. He was a single child. And so I'm thinking, like, damn, I'm feeling embarrassed. I got to get those things. And so the question that you're saying, or the statement that you're making, asking that child, what was it? What led you to making bad decisions, as opposed to simply, why did you do that? I think you can better understand it so that potentially when you're dealing with young people, I think you can help them to make better decisions, because of knowing what their experiences is. So I agree with you 100%, because I just think about, what I was going through as a young person, and people that knew me would say that, oh, he's a nice guy. But these were like little internal conflicts that I was going through. Having a relationship, wanting to hang with my peers that are doing negative, and caring about my friend. And how do I deal with those conflicts? Not having someone to help me deal with those conflicts. And it was just those little things when I had time to sit back and reflect on it. And I'm like, well, why? I asked myself, that self-introspection. Why was I making those decisions? And it was just those little things. I remember what led up to that particular event in my situation. I remember wanting to be with my friends and wanting to be with my girlfriend because I cared about her. I didn't know what love meant, but I felt something. And yes, I felt something. And so I wanted to be with her, but also I was being poured by my peers. And what was my peers doing? They were doing the things that were ultimately going to land me in prison. But I didn't have anyone, in particular, at least in my mind, I didn't have no one to talk these feelings through. And so I tried to resolve them on my own. And that was a bad decision.
I think, this is an incredibly moving film, and Pam, as you mentioned, the young men in this film have it in some ways even better than boys here in Philadelphia, right, who are kept in adult facilities when they're waiting for trial. They have it even better than the young girls here in Philadelphia. Because here in Philadelphia, RCF, the correctional facility for girls, when girls come in who are going to be tried as adults, there's so few of them that there isn't a separate unit to house them in. And because by law they have to be somewhat separated from the older women, they're essentially kept in solitary confinement. They're kept either in their cells all day or in a small room amongst each other. Often there's less than 10 of them, but that's their experience. And what the numbers tell us is that while clearly the vast majority of people in the criminal justice system have dealt with trauma in their lives, girls, it is the overwhelming majority. It is, it's the things that's also often sexual abuse. Layers, not just sort of psychological issues that they need to work through, but also real life challenges of being pregnant when you're inside prison, or having a baby when you're inside prison, or then being a mother, which can be, has similar elements to being a father, but something a little bit different as well. So I just wanted to bring that gender perspective.
Exactly, and thanks for adding that, because I wanted to, rather than being long-winded, I wanted to touch on the trauma informed experience of the that's a whole other conversation, but I want to hear what the audience feels about, you know, brain development and trauma.
Okay. Muhammad Shakur, I was touched by the film, let me say that first and foremost. Stand up. Okay. Muhammad Shakur, I'm the CEO of a Father's program called Father's Heart and Legacy Empowerment Center. I have contracts with the school district, and for the first 2 years of my organization, I work with fathers that have children in the foster care system. Before that, I worked for like 10 years for a national fathering program where I taught men that were post-incarceration to rebuild their lives. I want to make this quick because I think we need to make our comments quick so a lot of people can get in. Trauma doesn't have to be a precursor for failure, number one. It doesn't have to be that way. My son was murdered when he was 20. His best friend shot him right in the middle of the street, 7 bullets. He bled to death on his way to the hospital. 20 people were around, and the boy walked out of the courtroom free. And it made me a different person. And the trauma with most of my teachers then and most of my support systems, they didn't encourage allowing trauma to become my champion. So this is my first point. It's true that trauma makes us victims, but it can't make us perpetual victims. At some point, we have to move out of the victimization and move into a life that is more purposeful, meaningful, and transformative. And a lot of the programs are very good programs that don't get the financial support. And I don't think that we can wait on that. As Martin Luther King says, he has a speech where he says, how long? And we can't wait for them, we have to do it on our own. And I think a lot of organizations that don't get the money to do it are wonderful organizations, but we can't wait till we get the money. There's nothing wrong with a bunch of men getting together, walking down South Philly on the street, shaking hands, giving hugs, and telling people your experience is my experience, because I was a dope addict for years. So that we can walk down the street and tell them about those experiences. You don't need bricks to be able to do that. And I don't think that we do that enough. And young people that I've taught in the schools and young people that have come to my program say, Shaq, y'all just don't care. Y'all don't come to where we are and tell us that there's a brighter future. So my first point is that we need to go to them. We need to go to them, not wait for programs. Even though programs are important, hell, I got one. But we need to go to them and begin to tell them that there's a brighter future. Don't assume that they know. Don't assume that they know. The second point is that I like what the brother was saying about the schools. Really, parents can change the culture of a school. They really can. I work in them. When parents are involved in schools, schools can change the culture despite some of those criminalization policies. One of the schools used to be called, and you may have heard of it, Elementary. I'm sure some of you heard it. It was on the Daily News front page. And now they have a principal that has taken education, community involvement, and joined that together and changed their whole school around. And I'm a part of that process. But we encourage parents to get involved, no matter what your situation is. This is my last point. People were traumatized before most of us got on this earth. We come from a background of hundreds of years of being traumatized. Their response is not much like our response. Their response is very different to their trauma. Their response to trauma freed us to do what we do. And we have to encourage our people that even though there are forces that are demented and that are working to put our people away for a very long time and to step on our people's neck, that force exists. However, though, a greater force that freed us to be able to do what we do, the opportunities that we have, we can still take that spirit and do what is necessary so less of our young people have to go to prison. And that is what most of the people, I've seen most of these brothers up here, I really have. That's what you do, and we have to encourage other people to do the same. So my comments was about encouragement, even though I think that identification of the problems is necessary. I don't necessarily agree that we don't talk enough. But I do agree that we need to get more people involved because masses of numbers solve multiple problems. And this battle here is on so many different levels. It's policy, it's parental involvement, it's children becoming empowered, and we have to have different people that can take those different positions and move them forward. So I appreciate what you brothers are doing. It takes a lot of courage to do it because a lot of people don't care. The apathy in our neighborhoods is killing us. And we're going to have to just be at this like warriors and move forward. So I appreciate it. Thanks.
So before anybody from the panel comment, I have to just take executive principle for 1 second. Because we have a young person who actually has to leave, and she wants to give her commentary piece on step forward. And tell them your story first, and then give them your comments. Because they need to know. Yeah, come up to the light. You don't have to,
Your words is important. So share.
My name is Shanice. I'm 17 years old. I got locked up March 22nd for being with my friends. We had gotten into like an incident down West Philadelphia where a girl here had got caught on fire, and they were trying to charge us with attempted murder. I was sent up RCF. My bail was $2,500. I wanted to give up on life because I made one mistake, and that mistake kind of ruined me. But as I was locked up sitting in a cell, I was just thinking that one mistake couldn't ruin my life. And then when I had got bailed out, I still had my 2 jobs, and I still I had got dropped from school. I was a good girl, and then being around the wrong people made me realize that I don't have no friends. Nobody didn't make sure I was good. I was locked up, and then they dropped the case down to juvenile. That's why I'm with her, my advocate. She brought me here today, and as I came here, I seen that a lot of people have a story and better themselves, and I feel like I could better myself. How they better themselves, I still have a chance.
Hello, everyone. My name is Jacqueline. I'm a caseworker at JJC Family Services. And what Shanice just said is a big reason of why I do what I do. A lot of people, especially working with teenagers, when I think of teachers and public schools especially, they don't have good expectations for these kids. And that's why I tell them, these people a lot of time are waiting for you to mess up. They are looking for you to mess up, and they're ready to call 911 as soon as you slip up one time, especially if you've had interactions with law enforcement before, especially if you've been arrested before or anything like that. So I try to tell them, just because you messed up one time, that does not mean that you have to keep going about the same cycle. That does not mean that you have to give them what they're looking for. Rise above them and aim high, and don't allow them to have that power over you. Because when you mess up, when you put yourself in those positions, you're giving them power. If you're doing everything that you're supposed to do, setting goals for yourself and reaching those goals, then they have no power over you. So that's just something that I try to tell all of my students that I have on my caseload. That was great. Thank you. Thank you for sharing. Let's thank Shanice for sharing.
Or juveniles need support. Without support, they're going to just fall by the wayside. We heard the statement earlier, it takes a village. What that statement basically means is that there was support for every child in every village and every street. Yes, 20, 30, 40 years ago, we were poorer. But I think we have a lot of things that work against us and the youth in our environment and our communities right now. Back in the day, and I have no problem saying it, if I did something wrong, my neighbor saw me doing something wrong, she had permission to whoop me and take me to my mother, who seconded that beating. Nowadays, there are laws in place. Nowadays, you have families and mothers who say, don't touch my child, don't tell. So it's a lot of little nuances that needs to be addressed when we talk about building that community support that the youth of today needs. We gotta go back to that old school caring type of mentality. I mean, growing up, we didn't have the television showing us all the things that it showed us. We didn't have iPads and iPhones. Yes, technology is good, but our children are being brought up by a lot of external forces that weren't there when we were growing up. And I believe that sometimes makes a determination with regards to the way that they behave. And without proper adult support, caring adult support, like the organization that gentleman mentioned, and the young lady who's here as an advocate at this time of night with that young woman, until we get back to having those supports in place, I think, we still have an uphill battle to deal with. And I'm not saying it's not impossible.
I believe that life imitates art. I'm gonna start off by saying that. And one of my favorite TV shows is The Wire. And The Wire was my favorite TV show based on the depiction that they give of the children. My favorite character was Michael, because Michael showed what untreated trauma can lead to. Michael was abused as a kid. His stepfather was molesting him. And that trauma went untreated. And it went untreated, but it went dormant for a while until that stepfather returned home. And when that stepfather returned home, Michael sought comfort in the only person that he could, Marlo, which was a cold-blooded killer. And because that trauma wasn't treated, Michael became a killer himself. And for me, I call that the shaking soda pop, right? When you shake a soda pop, if you open it, it spills and gets on everybody. So what we have to do is we have to learn how to open it calmly and let it fizzle out. And that's why we can't ignore trauma. 90% of the people that commit this gun violence in Philadelphia are people that suffer from some type of post-traumatic stress that goes untreated. And when it goes untreated and it's compounded, it becomes allostatic. And anything can trigger it. This is why the violence is so rampant in our community. Juveniles are committing almost, I want to say 75% of the gun violence in our community is because they're suffering trauma on top of trauma on top of trauma. And it doesn't always have to impact us directly. Vicarious trauma is waking up with nothing to eat, going to a school that's totally outdated, wearing dirty clothes, not having hot water, right? Seeing your man with a pair of new sneakers on that you want. All this trauma that goes untreated leads us to that shaky soda pop. That when we open it, it busts on people. It spreads this on so many different people. So one of the solutions, we gotta find a way to actually be able to open that soda pop easily and let that friction come out slowly. And the first thing we have to do is we have to identify the problem. We can't just come to a solution. That's why I don't agree with what the brother said. We gotta focus on what the problem is first, right? Because the problems are multifaceted. Education. I don't believe that we should just put it on parents. I believe we gotta come to a holistic solution. Let me finish. We gotta come to a holistic solution, right? The parents have to take, our children are in school the majority of the waking hours of the day. So the school has a tremendous responsibility, right? But they have to work in conjunction with the parents, who have to work in conjunction with the community and the community centers. Everybody that try to do it by themselves, we're not gonna get this thing solved. That's right.
And what Hassan is really talking about is economic trauma. And we don't talk about that enough. If a kid falls asleep in class because there's 13 people in the house and the families can't afford to live, apart, that's economic trauma. If he's hungry in the morning, he or she, that's economic. We have young boys all over the city trapping and killing each other over drug territories. That's economic trauma. Because if there was jobs and resources, they wouldn't be doing that. We don't want to talk about the economics that's at the base of most of the problems in our community. And until we deal with that, we're always going to have that problem.
And I'm talking about antisocial behavior. I'm talking about letting our children sit in front of video games
Yes.
for 8 hours a day, playing Grand Theft Auto
Exactly.
and all Mortal Kombat and all these things. I'm talking about allowing people to legislate the way we live from Washington, D.C., from Harrisburg, putting these, these things that have no benefit to us in a place without us saying nothing. I'm talking about getting our voice back, taking our kids' lives back, and doing stuff and not waiting for other people to do what we're supposed to be doing. No,
Let's respect the mic. Let's respect the person with the mic.
Who has the mic?
I have the mic. My name is Vincent Boyd, and I'm one of them juvenile lifers that y'all speak about. And I have worked with Hassan on several occasions, and I worked with John Pace. And I just got out in February. And what I see in this community in Philadelphia is very, very ugly. I worked with Hassan in the school. We did a project together. Every time we went up there, them kids was fighting. Every time we walked through them school halls, nobody had the balance of helping them kids. Nobody. And I'm one, and I speak for me and a few other juvenile lifers that want to work. It don't take much to sit in school. I will be in the office anywhere, and you can send kids to me, and I can give them a story about drowning, from the beginning to the end. I had a mother and father. I chose the corner, My whole thing is, we do a whole lot of talking. I met everybody on that panel but you. We do a whole lot of talking. Put me somewhere. And I got a team that'll come with me. We don't want much, but we want to give back. I went to jail when I was 16 years old. I'm 52 years old. My nephew holding that camera right there. Very intelligent person. My rappy, he did 36 years. You got men out here that want to work. But when we walk into these conversations, we hearing a lot of rap. I'm game. I'm going to give it to you just like that. I'm game. Call me. And I will come and I'll help anybody. I will go to any school. And my conversation is about trauma. My conversation is about being home. My conversation is about helping instead of hurting. So we've got all these programs, all y'all got, solid. Y'all want somebody to want to work? I'm one of them. Thank y'all.
Hey, brother. We're actively working on that very same thing that you're talking about. And in fact, this morning, in a meeting at the Friend Center, we were discussing a proposal to employ juvenile lifers, to employ returning citizens, to reduce the violence. Hassan made a comment that as soon as he said it, it struck my mind. He said, we need to stop talking about programs and start talking about strategies. Because programs end, but strategies are ongoing. We need strategies to bring together resources so we can employ these brothers as they're coming out of prison. So we can employ returning citizens who have influence in their neighborhoods, who can stop the violence because the young boys say, oh, my old head said, look, don't do that. That's what they call us. They're OGs. They're old heads. We are the ones who can stop the violence if we're properly trained and given the resources in place, and we have something to offer them. You can't tell young boys who trapping, clocking, making paper to stop doing that unless you have something to offer them. Right now, Mayor Kenny's talking about spending $95 million to build a goddamn water park over I-95. That's crazy. There's 40,000 houses that are vacant in this city. That same money could be used to renovate houses, employ young people, house the homeless, employ returning citizens, give people skills, and transform our neighborhoods, because how much crime happens in abandoned houses all through the city? But unless we as voters, unless we as community members come together and say, this is what we want, this is what has to be done, we're holding you accountable for your actions. Right now, what do? Every 4 years, politicians sell us a dream and we go for it. We need to stop doing it. The reason we formed the BLOCparty, which stands for Build, Lobby, Organize, Campaign, is to build a foundation so that as formerly incarcerated people, as concerned citizens, we can create a voting bloc large enough to control Philadelphia politics. There's 300,000 returning citizens living in this city. I would expect that juvenile lifers coming home with the knowledge and the experience and the wisdom that you possess can be leaders of those who are already home, many of whom are unconscious, and move us in the direction where we can control economic resources and the politics of our city. And that's the reality. That's what we need to be talking about. That's what we need to be doing.
Question right here. So I just want to thank all y'all brothers for putting this on. Brother Jondhi, you know, I would like some information on the BLOCparty as a formerly incarcerated individual who worked for the school district, who also developed programs and proposals I would like to contribute. The other thing is that one of the things that Wayne Jacobs was talking about that's critical, we have a lot of children in our schools who are traumatized at young ages, kindergartners, first graders, fighting and cussing out teachers and staff and fighting other students. So when he was talking about the early childhood education component, which is my view in working in 28 schools for the school district, I recognize that we have to start getting our young people while they're small so that we can prevent them from going into the juvenile justice system. Brother Muhammad spoke about family engagement. The unfortunate thing, a lot of our schools, we don't have the community involved and we don't have the parents involved. And so one of the things that we have to do, or will be beneficial, is for us to develop a task force. We have 218 schools. Some schools are better off than others, but when we look in our community, majority of schools that closed were in our community. And a lot of the families and communities started organizing after the fact. I work in the Office of Family and Community Engagement for the school district after serving 23 and a half years in prison. I've been working for the longest to try to get our communities organized. I formed a task force in the West Philadelphia area to connect with all the organizations and individuals, because if we don't take back our schools and if we don't influence and impact our schools, our children are going to still continue to trickle from the schools to prison. Because the sad thing is that a lot of our teachers are afraid right now because of young children, the mindset of a lot of our young children. The other thing is we have a lot of teachers in our schools who don't live in the community. So they get in their cars and they leave. They don't have that vested interest. So it's the community that we need to be that pillar to try to bring back some control. And like I've been saying it for the last 7 years of the 12 years I've been home. The men, we have to organize, and we have to go into the communities in an organized fashion, into the schools, and let them children know that no, we care and we want to see change. Because at the end of the day, self-development is the basis for community development. If we don't develop the individual, I don't care how much we make our communities beautified, they're going to be torn down. So that trauma is real. The domestic abuse, the violence that's going on, the drugs, the homelessness. There's so many traumas that our children are dealing with. And so Wine, brother, Wine uncle, Wine, my young buck, we grew up together. I know the whole family. And so I'm going to be working to see what I can do to, get you somewhere. So I'm willing to help wherever I can to get to build the capacity of this movement.
Thank you so much, Brother Freeman. Any other comments?
Yes, right here.
Once again, I'm saying this. I work with juvenile offenders. The needs of what was going on with a lot of the ex-offenders that was coming home from jail. And a lot of these ex-offenders suffered from educational purposes. They didn't have that education. They didn't know how to fill out an application. They didn't know how to go and apply for a birth certificate or an ID. A lot of these children, we need to help them with resources. So just like these brothers here, and I'm here, I volunteer. I did case management, and I know the needs of the community. It's very hard to keep the village going if we don't put up and we keep shutting up.
Thank you. And any more questions? Any
Yeah,
comments?
right here.
Go ahead, Ms. Pam, I'm gonna let you go first.
No, go ahead. No, I didn't realize you. Go ahead.
I can say one thing before, brother.
Go ahead, please.
Just in response to what you're saying about, I mean, yes, we create resumes for people. We show them how to do online applications. We do case management. We do all of it. But when that's done, sisters and brothers need jobs.
Exactly. But they need jobs, but a lot of them don't know how to go and do job searching. They don't know how to interview. So we can do all the applications in the world, but we have to show them how to do.
We can assist with all that.
Assist with all that.
At the end of the day,
yes.
Comcast is the biggest employer in the city, with all kind of tax incentives, and they won't hire returning citizens. We need to hold people accountable in this city who are not responsive to our community.
But you know what? Listen, we can't always blame Comcast. We can't always blame a lot of these.
Stop buying their cable.
These companies.
They won't hire returning citizens. Don't watch their TV.
Listen, I'm saying because a lot of people are not in place to be hired for some of those positions. Okay, you may need an education, a 12th grade education. They may require you to have a diploma. Yes, a lot of these companies do. But you can't always apply everywhere you would like to. So we have to set them up, get them the resources where they can go and get their diplomas or get their GEDs so they'll be able to apply for those type of positions.
And with all due respect, I think you're really underestimating the caliber and the quality of folks coming home.
No, I'm not.
Folks get your GEDs, mostly when they're inside. And you have so many organizations. You have RISE, you have TCRC, you have CTS. So many organizations that are doing the resume building, that are doing the social skills. And many folks already had that. When I came home after 18 years of being incarcerated, I didn't need anybody to do anything except give me a job. I was job ready. I was ready to go.
Well,
so many brothers are in that situation. We need to press for employment, economics, entrepreneurship, money.
When I'm speaking of, I worked in a program called the Choice is Yours program. And this was a program working with young offenders, giving them the opportunity to become reintegrated to have their records expunged.
Ma'am, expungement is a joke.
Can I just, because, time is running out. I appreciate what the sister is saying, and I understand what my brother over here is saying. Realistically, I think what you're talking about could be, there are a lot of young men coming from State Road, because I've not worked, this is the first time I'm working with people coming from State Road. And there are a lot of young men that leave State Road that really do not have their high school diploma or GEDs. And we are helping them to get there. There are a lot of them who really need skills in interviewing and trying to get a job and online applications. There are a lot of them like that. But there are also a lot of the people that you're seeing, Jondhi, who are people coming. No, but I mean, I think it's a need. There are how many over 300,000 formerly incarcerated people in the city of Philadelphia, and there are people who need grassroots help, and there are those who need help. I mean, they come home, they're ready, just give them a job and they would be able to do it. So I think it's a need that has to be addressed across the spectrum. And I thank you for your comment, and John, now you know we respect what you're saying.
Hello everyone, my name is Wayne Rucker. I'm a returning citizen as well. I've been home for about a little over 3 years, and there were several issues that I wanted to touch on, but I understand we're all like community organizers. A lot of people have programs and things like that. I'm a business major with a finance minor, and what's sparked my interest in finance is that, you know, all the problems that we're talking about are interconnected, and finance is a big part of it. I see that we talk about the absences of our parents at the school, with the schools, and that's partly because they're probably like your mom was at work when you came home, and they're trying to keep up with the bills. And it's not just the need for jobs, it's the need for, you know, good jobs. And then, you know, you got the people who come home from prison like myself. I'm ready to have a job. You know, I got employed, but how does it feel to be the only black Muslim, you know, formerly incarcerated in an all-white organization? No offense, you know. You know, it's challenging. I've sat across the table with many leaders and talked about community impact the same way this brother offered his services, and everyone sees me out here volunteering. I've received the President's Volunteer Service Award, and one of the things that I feel that I often feel that my opinion is not as credible as those who have been doing this work for 10 plus, 15 years, and what I've learned in my research is that the closer you are to the problem, the closer you are to the solution. And all of my experiences all together, it inspired my work today. And I just got my 501c3 approved for neighborhood and economic development. So we're tackling these issues that we're talking about from an economics perspective. Each of these families, we're serving these families. We're not giving out subsidized housing. No, that's not what we're doing. What we're doing is we're teaching people strategies on how to manage their money and the different ins and outs, and how to avoid the predatory, facets of, home ownership. This is what we're working on. And right now, our programming costs, $12,000. Take care of 10, 15 people. But, I'm not soliciting for funding right now, but the program is powerful, and inside that room you have other people that you can talk to about the issues that's interconnected with the many issues related to finance, economics, your children, trauma, and all of those things. And you create that support network. And what I found in our 3 pilots, I don't want to go too long, but in our 3 pilots, 6 people bought homes. And what I found is they came out of that program, like you said, programs died. They came out of that program on fire, and they wanted to step in and be a part of this work. So what we prioritize in my organization is not only, just serving our constituency, but, creating a pipeline for them to begin carrying out and, and perhaps leading in a number of our different objectives. And my name is Wayne Rucker, and I'm running for president.
If I can bring it back right quick to the documentary, I want to say something that I found that was real powerful and how it had an impact on me. When it was the sentencing part, right? Because you can see a child's mentality in that. This man was just given 160-something years to life, and he turned around and he smiled and winked his eye. You couldn't really comprehend as a juvenile the seriousness of that sentence. And it brought me back to 30 years ago when I caught my case. And I'm facing life. I had just did it. And I'm at 55th and Pine. And I knock on the prison door and I say, mind you, I'm a juvenile. Who's winning the Eagles game?
Right.
Right? And the officer looked at me like, you're facing life, death penalty. I'm like, yeah, but who's winning the Eagles game? Right? So it was amazing, seeing that again. And it just did something to me. And so I think that I commend Sharif, John, Juan, and y'all, for survive in that. But I also think that we got to keep in mind that prison stunts your growth and development, mentally as well. Because when I came home, a lot of my mindset was still as a 17-year-old. I still didn't know how to cook. I didn't know how to take on the responsibilities of adult, right? Because when I went there, I was a 17-year-old. I would talk to girls like when I was 17. They'd be like, you acting like a kid. I'm like, man, I really was a kid, but I just didn't know it. I've been on for 15 years, and I'm just playing catch up. I'm finally really one of those 46 is the new 31, because it seems like that's where I'm at now in my life, my growth and development. So I think that for Sharif, I think that for Juan and John and them, we have to be patient with them. And I think that we have to really provide them with the resources to help them truly begin the growth and development process. Man, Sharif had this conversation. I remember Sharif told me, and I was like, man, I thought you was always sharp. He said, son, I faked it a lot of times, right? I faked it. He was like, but I'm ready. And I'm saying, well, you got to slow down, because I used to say that too. Because when you go in at 16 and all you see is that wall, a lot of times you're in a time capsule and your mindset is still 16. And a lot of the things that you're going to realize is that your growth and development starts now. So I'm with Luke Mine. We're going to extend whatever we can. We have already done it, right? So, just keep that in mind. I think that I encourage everybody that does a serious amount of time to seek mental health treatment as well. Because I'm telling you, you don't know the impact that it has on you, until somebody really pointed it out.
I want to say just 2 points about, I agree with you, and I'm going to speak about that in terms of my personal adjustment. But one, just looking at the film too, I was really struck by the judge, how cavalier he was in giving out a sentence like that. And I understand the reason why is because it wasn't his child, and so if it was his child or someone that he could relate to, I think he would have been a little bit more thoughtful about that. But to your point in terms of the transition and being patient, one of the things I look at is, I look at us human beings as organisms. And organisms generally adapt to whatever that environment is. And so our transition out here is that we're going to adapt, but it's learning to be patient. I can't be where Hassan at. I can't be where Ruben is at. I can't be where someone who's been out here for a while. I can't be in that space. I have to allow myself to slowly adjust. And so one of the things I've learned to enjoy is getting on the bus, riding, just going around. And so all those things, it has allowed my system just to adjust to the transition. And so to your point, I agree with you 100%. And I think this is what I always try to tell when I'm having conversations with guys, other juvenile lifers as they're coming out, and I'm saying to them, just be patient with yourself. Don't try to catch up. Just allow yourself to slowly adjust to it. Because I see individuals may think that, it's been a long time and I got to have these things. No, let them come. Let these things slowly come, and they're going to come, because we're going to adapt as organisms.
We have one more.
Get the mic, no, his mic.
When you had mentioned the judge, one of the things that I wanted to bring up is that when we look at the healing circle, that we be inclusive of everybody, because if we decide that we're going to go to center stage, first if we could just agree on where it is that we're trying to get to. We need everybody to get somebody there, because everybody is at a different space. And everybody that's in here has the mechanism to capture a certain person because of who you are and what your experience has been. And then the other is to look at, when I say the 360, is that we look at having other people involved, because it's not just the juveniles that are in prison that have been struck by trauma. Our police officers, they are licensed to have a gun. And most of them are coming from traumatic backgrounds where there's been trauma. For me, I have 2 degrees, psychology and counseling. I think that if we're going to have law enforcement, they should have a psychology degree, a sociology degree, some kind of degree, because we're putting a whole lot of responsibility in the hands of someone who also, if they're starting at 17 and 18 or 18, they too don't have a fully developed mind. So when we look at the situation, we're looking at it from a 360 standpoint, like when we do an evaluation of ourselves. You need to look at yourself, have people above you, below you, to look at it. So just looking at our village, you know, from a very holistic standpoint, and that the healing has to come all the way around, and not just where we're looking at the criminals. We have teachers that are traumatized. We have judges that are dealing with trauma, lawyers, everybody. So we have to, when you look at that, you can't just look at it in the capsule.
Thank you so
If I
much
could
for
say
the
one last
comment.
thing.
Go ahead.
About what was said about the juvenile lifers, I have an alternative point of view. Because I remember when I came home in 2009, I went to the Pennsylvania Prison Society, and I was sitting in front of his brother's desk, you know, and he was, you know, telling me to, you know, take things very slow and be patient, and I should find a job in a fast food restaurant and just, you know, get my bearings. And I looked at him and I said, brother, I could do your job. You know, you're sitting behind this desk doing this. I mean, my qualities and my abilities are on that level. What are you telling me? So, what I'm saying is, from what I've seen out of the brothers that I've met who are juvenile lifers, I'm expecting some incredible things out of y'all. And don't be held down by what other people think you're capable of and leadership. You guys are going to be leaders. Trust that.
Last one.
I'm a juvenile lifer, and I've been away for almost 43 years, and I'm coming to realize that I'm just part of the problem. I mean, you know, from where, you know, I was as a person many years ago, I'm part of your problem. But now, you know, after being incarcerated so long, you realize now there's a solution to this. And one of the things is that I really can understand now is it's one reason why 70% of all the state prisoners come from Philadelphia. And we got to understand the conditions here in Philadelphia translate to that. And one of the things I can easily identify with is what, you know, a normal day for a child in the city of Philadelphia is not a normal day. Meaning that, I mean, my normal day was just missing, doing crimes, I mean, doing drugs, not getting an education, not caring about my community. Now, I see that was an abnormal day. So now we got a lot of kids just following that same pattern. So now I think as a lifer, as a juvenile who's been incarcerated so long, I can easily identify with that and easily relate to that. And I think, you know, now I want to be part of the solution. And that's just, you know what I mean? It's that simple.
And as a juvenile lifer, you have a responsibility to all the brothers who you left behind who are lifers. We have 5,000 lifers throughout the Pennsylvania state system. So this is really an experiment. Many of us as community activists have been working for a long time to end life without parole. Juvenile lifers can have a great impact on that struggle. As you come home and be successful and show the system, yes, a person who was judged as not being worthy of being in society can do well. You can open the door for lifers to get parole. And that's extremely hard. And that's your responsibility. And that's your challenge.
And I think we're coming down to the close of the evening, right, Mr. Jones?
Yes.
Right?
Yes, yes.
At 9:30. I just want to thank that gentleman back there for his comment, because again, the documentary was about juveniles. We saw 3 young men who, one of them who's going to be facing 160 years in life without parole, one who's going to be 15 years and then he gets deported, one who actually did get out very suddenly, but then 2 years later he was back in jail on 2 robbery charges. And the gentleman's comment, he's coming home and he's seeing young Philadelphians in a state where we as community people need to start helping them. Juvenile life, juvenile incarceration is a real issue. And unless we as a people, we as a city, we as a community start not just talking about what the issues are, but start identifying the issues and then coming up with some solid solutions, it's probably going to get worse before it gets better. Every single one of us, I think, has an obligation to try to help the youth, to try to close off that school to prison pipeline. And I think we've talked tonight, there have been lots of different issues, there have been lots of different topics, lots of different solutions that were touched on. And just in closing with regards to this documentary, one of the things that I think about that was really outstanding to me, Hassan talked about the judge, right?
No.
The young man, he talked about the judge. One of the things that I found really interesting, and I know it's still happening now because you talk to a lot of the young men coming from the prisons, is that the lawyer, Jared's lawyer, did nothing, absolutely nothing to defend him. Nothing. Do you have anything? No. This was a DUI. And she sat there while that young man and this cold-hearted judge was quickly able to calculate 160 years to life. These are some of the results that some of our young people, when they go in front of a judge right now, they're facing. Again, coming back to the economic issue, there's no money to get a good lawyer. Because looking at the movie, this woman was advertised as a DUI attorney. Here, I guess her parents was only able to afford her to come fight this case. We have a lot of young people that are going in front of judges, don't have the right representations, do not have the right advocates. Thank God for this young woman who came in with this advocate here this evening. But there are a lot. This was kind of the exception more than the rule. And there are a lot of our young men and women who are going in front of judges who A, do not care about their futures. I mean, it started with one of them saying, if you want to see rehabilitation, go to a museum. There was another one that called them mini Charles Mansons. You know, I mean, this is the way that the criminal justice officials, most of them think about the young men and women that are going in their presence. And then here, as a parent, you scrape up whatever couple dollars you can, you hire a lawyer who just sits by and lets your child go to jail for the rest of their lives. These are the kinds of issues that we have to stay aware of. And as community people, as we talk to parents, as we talk to people in our environments who come to us asking advice, these are some of the things that we really, really need to address. It's sad, but it's true. They told me to take a plea. And before you know it, you upstate doing 10, 15 years in a case that if you had really sat a little bit longer, you might have been free. We hear that story, I hear that story a lot. But because people are not educated and they don't know and they have no support and no advocates, a lot of times, especially the young black men and women that are going to the courts today. In closing, I just would ask every one of the panelists to give some statement about something connected with the documentary that I think we all can take something positive home for the evening. And I thank you so much for your time.
I'll close with this. A wise man once told me that the best way to beat this system is to not get caught up in it in the beginning. Because you see that the lawyer wasn't on their team, nor was the judge on their team. So what I think we have to do is be proactive and prevent people from going through this travesty to begin with.
I think that there are some clear parameters that we need to look at as we attack this problem. And most of those I've pushed forward tonight. But I really believe that economics is the key to change in our community. And politics. We don't want to talk about politics. We don't want to talk about voting. We don't want to talk about holding politicians accountable. We don't want to talk about the school system and what should be done. But these are basic things that unless we invest our time and energy in, we continue to have a problem. I encourage those who think similarly to come together, work with us, so we can move things forward.
And I'll jump off of that policy note. you know, Pennsylvania, as many of you know, has some of the strictest laws when it comes to criminal justice generally, but particularly around juveniles. And there's something called direct file, which means anyone who commits a whole number of offenses, all of those here, including, you know, robbery of a motor vehicle, aggravated indecent assault, if you have a weapon on you, a deadly weapon on you, and you're over the age of 15, automatically you're going to be tried as an adult. The DA doesn't have discretion, the judge doesn't have discretion, you just automatically get funneled into that system. Not every state is like that. And so there's incremental change that can happen on a policy level that will shift the dynamic on the ground as well.
Thank you.
Yeah. When looking at the video, I realized that all of us gonna play various different roles. You know what I mean? Everyone can't play the same role. And so when we talk about economics, someone's gonna play that role. We're talking about, you know, being someone that helps guide young people. Someone's gonna be. I look at my personal experience informs me in that direction. Because of my personal experience and not knowing how to navigate many of the dangers that were present, I think that that's where probably I'm going to play a more instrumental role. And I think, just to make the point clear, one of the things I've already begun, you know, people tell me slow down, you know, they said you need to slow down now. But I realize that all of us are in different places. Some people may need to slow down because they may not be fully adjusted. And so I've come out and I've been fully engaged, but yet still I'm still reminding other guys, you know what I mean, if you're not there yet, you need to slow down. Because, you know, we don't want re-traumatizing guys to be re-traumatized. We want them to adjust and then find your place. Find your place. And so that's one of the things we have been doing is formulating a group among juvenile lifers to assess where each one of us are at, so that we can all play a role, whether it is, which is to your point, going back and helping other lifers. That's a discussion. You know, whether it's going to youth study center, going to schools, which me and Sharif did the other day. So we finding where we can play roles at.
Thank you so much, and ladies and gentlemen, on behalf of the panel, on behalf of the various groups that put this wonderful event together, I want to thank you and have a safe journey.